We never know where life will lead us or what may hinder us along the way. But while every day can feel like one big question mark, it doesn't have to. With the right insights, strategies, and solutions from Western and Southern Financial Group, together we can look ahead to leave the unknown behind.
Welcome into Tailgate. Austin Gayle here with Mike Renner on a lovely Wednesday morning going live via satellite. And you're in this absurd Packers tailgate outfit. What is this?
Zubas. So I walk in this morning and you asked me what these pants are. And I'm like, you never heard of Zubas? Seen Zubas before?
Zuba is not something I knew.
I've been wearing these since I was like 6.
Are they the same pants from your 6-year-old days?
No, I've gotten new ones. I wasn't this tall as a kid, but they were as cool as they were then as they are now.
Wow. Producer Mike Quinn also was like, yeah, those are Zubas. I guess I'm on the outside looking in. Those are interesting apparel choices. I'm wearing Notre Dame for you, Mike.
Yeah,
I
know.
us.
I feel like I got fucking shown up here. You rocking a Notre Dame jersey, and I'm rocking Packers.
We are going to.
No,
next stop on the tailgate is Notre Dame, Wisconsin at Soldier Field. I'll be wearing the same jersey.
Everyone and their mother is going to be there, apparently. You got
really?
Big Noon Kick, you got Game Day, you got the Barstool Roadshow, and you got the tailgate.
Oh, my God. It's going to be a festival.
Yeah.
Also on the show today, we're going to get into some Monday Night Football review, College Football Week 3 reviews, some risers and fallers, the quarterback class, etc. And then also, back end of the show, I talked to Iowa linebacker Jestin Jacobs, who if you don't know the name yet, this kid is a stud, one of the highest rated linebackers in the Power 5, a redshirt sophomore, 6'4", 240, long arms, really smart dude. And then also Jerrion Ealy, the Ole Miss running back. Man, he has a fantastic story about Lane Kiffin. I bring up, how much Lane Kiffin wants to adjust. All these adjustments in game at halftime and these things. He said, I got a good example. Practice today. He walks up to me and some of the other players, says, you run this way, and you run that way. And we did it. Next thing you know, we're in the end zone. He's like, that guy's a genius. It's incredible what Jerrion has to say. So definitely tune into those at the back end here. Let's start with Monday Night Football. Your thoughts on the Manning cast week 2? I did not like it. I thought week 1 was better. Week 2 was way too predicated on these guests. And I felt like my thought was, it ended up you're watching the game with a podcast in the background because so little of the conversation was actually about the game.
Yeah, so that's kind of what I was going to say is, as a Packer fan, I think if I was really trying to get immersed in the game, I would rather have just watched the normal broadcast. If it's a game I really care about, obviously this is week 2 Lions, but if it's like a bigger game, a bigger matchup, I would have rather just watched the broadcast and focused on what's going on the football field, because so much of it was not focused on the football field, unfortunately. But I still found it very entertaining, having watched it. The Brett Favre segment, though, was one of the worst segments I've seen in TV history. He was not only felt like he was on a 5-second delay compared to everyone else, but he looked like he was lost. It looked like he wasn't even watching the game. It was a tough scene.
He wasn't watching the game.
Yeah,
so
he wasn't.
He's like, how'd they look at the first? One of his questions literally was, how did the Lions play in the first half? Not even a specific one, how did Goff look or the offensive line or has his defense been running this coverage all game? He's like, no, how did they play? And they're like,
And then he kept being like, why aren't they running cover 2? They should run cover 2. It's like, Jesus, dude.
I didn't think any of the guests were good. I think the Pat McAfee was the most entertaining, but even then, it's like you just told a really long story while plays were going on. That game was a blowout by then. But how about the game itself? Any surprises in that one? Aaron Jones, 4 touchdowns. Aaron Rodgers, A-OK. I think there's still some concern on this Packers defense.
I agree.
They can't get pressure on the quarterback. And they give up a ton of big plays. Eric Stokes, I think, now leads all rookie cornerbacks in forcing completions. He had himself a good game. But outside of that, I still – Quintez Cephas should not be balling out on you guys. You should not be getting next to no pressure against this Lions offensive line. Penei Sewell, I know, has played really well. I think he has 0 sacks allowed so far this season at left tackle. But the interior, Jonah Jackson has one of the lowest pressure rates allowed of any lineman this season. There's holes in that Lions offensive line. It's not as formidable as maybe the Packers defense made it look.
Yeah, they really should have been able to. And, I mean, you're down a starter. You're throwing out Matt Nelson at right tackle. You should be dominating an offensive line like that. If you are championship caliber sort of defensive line. Obviously, no Zadarius Smith. That's a big loss for any team to lose your best pass rusher, but still you would hope Rashawn Gary, Preston Smith, first-round pick, and a guy you're paying a lot of money to get a little bit more pressure than they did. So that is obviously a concern going forward. They're the only team in the NFL that doesn't have a player with a sack yet, even though they got a team sack on that Goff fumble. Yeah, I'm worried about the defense. I'm just going to say it. And the fact that afterwards you saw Matt LaFleur's press conference said he told Joe Barry to start bringing pressure in the second half. Like, he told him how to do his job. And that's always kind of a worrisome thing when you have to have the head coach basically dictating to the play caller how to do his job. It's a little scary. I'll just say it's a little scary as a fan, as anyone outside the organization, to hear things like that. Maybe that's common. Maybe someone could tell me I'm a dumbass, but that just hearing that is something that you would probably. I don't think the elite DCs. I don't think Robert Saleh was getting told how to run his defense by Kyle Shanahan over in San Francisco. I don't think Brendan Staley was getting told what to do by Sean McVay. I'll just say that.
I asked you this after week 1 about your nearing the panic button, the Packers, and I know they won this game, but that I am second guessing this defense. I don't know, and the Rams look good. I think I've always highlighted the Packers as the second best team in the NFC, right behind the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, all offseason and even after week 1. I was like, I still am a believer. Are the Rams creeping up as this kind of I know it's 2 weeks. It's reacting sample size, whatever. But, like, where are you at? Where are you ranking the NFC right now? Tampa obviously won. Who is your number 2 team in the NFC with all of the data that you have?
I think it's still the Packers.
Mm-hmm.
I do think it's a team offensively that's going to improve, obviously, when David Bakhtiari comes back and throughout the season. I will say the Rams have looked very good going into Indy. Putting up 27 points in that defense, not easy. So I think it's close, but I do think it's the Packers still, until I'm proven otherwise.
Fair enough. Yeah. I think the Rams have made it closer, in my opinion, than I thought they were going to. I think I was fading the new look Rams, not a playoff contender, but I never was like, oh yeah, Rams are the second best team in the NFC. I always felt that Green Bay was, but I think they are closer in my mind. I'll stick with Green Bay, better quarterback. I'm giving that. What they have there. All right, let's get to college football risers and fallers here. The first guy you have on your list for the risers. You want to go back and forth? You want to go risers and fallers?
Let's just go risers first. We don't want to harp too much on the fallers. So we don't have to go back and forth.
That's totally fair. So Georgia defensive lineman Nolan Smith, a 77.8 PFF grade so far this year, 77.5 pass rusher grade, a former highly regarded recruit, finally starting to put things together for Georgia.
Yeah, that's an understatement. I mean, the 247 composite, he was number 1 overall.
Oh, wow. Oh, and the composite, too. Doesn't that rank among previous years?
He was the number 1 overall. Sorry, 20th all-time, but number 1 overall in that class, the 2019 class, which featured Kayvon Thibodeau, Derek Stingley Jr., guys who were studs from day one. Nolan Smith was the number 1 guy coming out of high school. Has not looked like those guys since. Has not done that. Now, he's been playing since his true freshman year, but never really made that leap to dominance. You see the physical ability. That guy can fly. Like, chases down quarterbacks outside the pocket with ease. But this was the first game where you're like, oh, okay, this guy can actually be a every down, impactful defensive end. 89.9 overall grade against South Carolina. You saw him set the edge very, very well for a guy who's probably would qualify as undersized. I think he probably runs in the 240s range at 6'3". But then as a pass rusher, his highest graded game as pass rusher, 2 sacks, a forced fumble in there as well, 90.4 pass rushing grade. The tools are there. Like, this guy has that. That's kind of Georgia's entire defense, honestly. But more games like that, Nolan, please.
I think that entire Georgia team dominated against South Carolina. Did you see the clip, Shane Beamer talking about the defense?
I did not.
It's a press conference clip, I think, on a Zoom, and you got to go look it up. It's hilarious. But Shane Beamer, maybe we could play it on the show, Mike. I mean, Quinn, maybe we could loop this one in. Maybe I'll send it to you. But this clip, man, they asked him, like, hey, like, what surprised you or something about this Georgia defense? Like, what makes them so good? And he's like, just like pretty much like, well, they got fucking 55 stars. They got like this entire team is like top 100 recruits. They're all athletes. They're all big. They're all well coached. Like, outside of that, they're pretty damn good too. And it's like, oh, it's pretty much an encapsulation of like, I mean, they do have like all 5 stars. They do. Like, this defense is loaded with so much talent. Nakobe Dean, Nolan Smith. I mean, this is a lot of talent for Georgia's defense. It's why, like, there are people legitimately talking about Georgia as the number 1 team in the country. Are you on that bandwagon at all? I think we've had some people in the office say Georgia is maybe a better football team than
I am. Yeah, I think they are the best team in the country.
Really? You think Georgia over Bama?
Yeah, I thought Oklahoma, like I said, my preseason pick was Oklahoma over Georgia. I think Georgia's probably now the best. And I do worry about the offense, but by the time SC Championship playoff rolls around, they should have Pickens back at the very least to help out that offense. George Pickens, the junior wide receiver. I though, can't wait, having watched this game, Jordan Davis, defense tackle, 6'6", 340. I can't wait to watch him run his 40. Because do you see him chasing down, South Carolina's quarterback's name is eluding me, but you see him chasing him down outside the pocket and sprinting? His feet did not get more than about 3 inches off the ground.
That's
the
incredible.
shuffle. Go watch. The shuffle is incredible. He does not pick his knees up. His feet just like glide, but he's moving. It's gonna be a joy to watch.
Reviewing some of this Nolan Smith tape, like him setting the edge at the size he is absurd. Like, especially, I mean, South Carolina, is not like a juggernaut in the SEC, but like they have legitimate talent. I mean, they have regarded talent at tackle, and those guys are big. And he's like not just setting the edge with power, but like exploding into the offensive tackle, extending his arms, and not giving up plays against the run. I think he's if you talk about a riser, but also probably one of the most improved players in college football over the course of his career. On to now, Trey McBride. We got actually tagged in a tweet from Jim Nagy, the director of the Senior Bowl, talking about Trey McBride's performance this past week, the Colorado State tight end. When I talked to Steve Adazio, head coach, he said, we got the best tight end in the country. He also said we had the best punter in the country. So they got a lot of good things going on for Colorado State. But when you turn –
that's where I want to be strong.
Yeah.
If I'm a college football team, tight end and punter, you're going to win a lot of games.
That's where I want to be strong. I honestly want to be strong like that in the NFL. If you don't have a good tight end – I mean, that was the Raiders for a better part of the early 2000s. Zach Miller and Shane Leckler. That's all we had. Trey McBride – going back and watching his tape, before you comment on like how much he's risen, speak to him as an athlete. I mean, productivity has been obvious. He has been phenomenal for Colorado State. He's like soaking up like 99% of their passing yards this past week, or whatever it was. What soaking up? I don't know if I love that verb or that phrase choice. What's your opinion of him as an athlete?
I bet he runs somewhere in the neighborhood of a 4.7 flat, maybe high 4.6s. But he's 260 pounds. He's not undersized for a tight end. You see it on his tape at Colorado State. When he's running a straight line, it's tough for a 190-pound cornerback to bring him down. Like guys bounce off him very easily. This season already, 3 broken tackles on 31 catches for his career, 13 on 105. Like that's a legitimate part of his game after the catch. Now, is he the type of athlete that's going to win consistently one-on-one? Probably not.
Yeah.
Like I don't. He's not in that tier, but he's got very solid hands. Been good in contested catches over the course of his career, and more than athletic enough to get by. I think when all said and done, I do think this guy's probably a top 100 player, probably at the back end of the top 100. In this game against Toledo, 109 yards. They only had 110 yards passing in the entire game. He has 109 of them.
I don't think I've ever seen that.
That is over 99% of a team's receiving yards for a game. There's only one more yard to do better. Although I guess you could technically have more than 100% of a team's passing yards.
Yeah, if they have sacks and stuff.
If they have, just negative other passes. But 343 yards for 3 games. He's at 100 yards in every single one of his games this year. He's definitely that's going to be your Mackey Award winner right there.
3 100-yard games to start the season against South Dakota State, Vanderbilt, and then this past week, Toledo. He also has 1 touchdown on the season. Only 2 drops so far this year, 42 total targets. And the other thing I was going to highlight is that I think this is also going to reflect his usage in the NFL. Very few snaps in the slot, very few snaps in the outside. It's mostly an inline tight end at 6'4", 260. I think that's how he's going to be utilized largely in the NFL, whereas a lot of teams, when you are drafting tight ends inside the top 50, top 60, looking for guys that you can split out wide and split in the slot, these better athletes.
Yeah, his average depth target is 7.1 yards. It's not – he's not running –
You got a comp that comes to mind?
This ain't Kyle Pitts. He's not running like Kyle Pitts.
It's not Kyle Pitts, your comp?
This is not Kyle Pitts.
Well, you got a comp that comes to mind?
Comp that comes to mind. That's a good one.
I mean, it's hard because you're going to have to turn back clocks a little bit to identify a tight end at that size who's even had a lot of success in the NFL. Like 260?
I mean, Gronk's 265. There are some.
Okay, never mind. Sorry. I didn't mean future Hall of Fame Gronk. I meant like a tight end of his athleticism and size.
I mean, like Cole Kmet was about 260 coming out. There are guys. I'm off the top of my head, I can't really think of. Maybe like Dallas Goedert might be a guy who's.
Is that how you pronounce it?
No,
is it split like that?
I was just. I don't know why I said it like that, but yeah, because I was a little unsure. But yeah, Dallas Goedert, I think is the guy whose profile.
Our next riser is actually on this podcast. Jerrion Ealy,
convenient,
Ole Miss running back. So, do you know his recruiting background?
Hit us.
Highly regarded recruit out of Mississippi.
Baseball player.
Yeah, big time.
He might honestly still play baseball.
He does. He does play baseball.
I'm saying he might, instead of going to the NFL.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's
he spoke to his love for both sports on the interview when you listen to it today. Highly regarded recruit, had offers from Bama, Clemson, like all these teams, and then he decided to stay in state at Mississippi. I think a lot of that was because he knew he was going to be able to play baseball for Ole Miss, and like playing baseball is such a huge importance to him. He plays in the outfield. He said he talked a lot about, he had off-season shoulder surgery this past year and wasn't able to play a ton. But he talked a lot about like, hey, I have not played baseball since I was like a kid, and I want to continue to play. It's one of my favorite things. So he's like, and I asked him like why he originally got into football. He's like, I was just good at it. Like, you know, it's like I feel like he's an interesting player. The interview was very good. But Jerrion Ealy on the football field, one of the highest broken tackle rates in the country. Super quick. I think his acceleration is incredible, and guys just bounce off him. He's small, a little bit smaller. I think he's like what 5'9" in the
190, 5'8", 190.
Yeah. But he's a rocked up 190 at 5'9". I do think that it's not a death knell for him. I know smaller backs have kind of gotten hit pretty tough lately, Clyde Edwards-Helaire specifically. But I think Jerrion Ealy is a riser for me as well.
Well, it depends on what you're asked to do. If you're a smaller back and you want to be a full-time carry the load,
30 carry back,
that might be an issue. If you were asked to pick up pass pro all the time, that could be an issue. But I think Jerrion Ealy, his sort of biggest strength is that not only is he very elusive, tough to bring on space, but this guy's legit receiving chops. Like, it's unsurprising considering he's a shortstop in baseball. Like,
I think he's an outfielder.
Or outfielder, okay, sorry. That, like, with baseball background, you better be able to catch. Like, you better have some hand-eye coordination. He does. Like, he could actually play just slot receiver, this guy, if you wanted him to, at that size. And so against Tulane, 12 broken tackles, 15 attempts. He's my favorite scat back in the class. I don't think it's really particularly close. 6 catches for 78 yards through this season already. Excited to see. I think he's going to get more usage as you see kind of the stakes get higher for Ole Miss when they have to play the Bamas of the world in a couple weeks, which that's going to be a good one.
He also had a lot of really good things to say about Matt Corral. Talking about guy puts in coaching hours. Coaching hours when you're the first one and last guy to leave. Guy who's, I think when you hear people talk about quarterbacks and the first thing they bring up is it couldn't happen to a better guy, I feel like my ears do perk up a little bit. But what's interesting about Jerrion Ealy's usage, and he talked about Lane Kiffin and like why he loves Lane Kiffin. He's going to throw me the football. They actually lean on Henry Parrish, the other running back there, to run a little bit more routes for them. I'm interested to see if they start to use him more as a pass catcher, because right now the leading running back in routes run is Henry Parrish Jr. So getting Jerrion Ealy, I think, on the field more, running more routes. He's ran 32 routes so far this year. I want to see that. I want to see more of him catching the football, because I agree with you. I think that's what his role will be in the NFL.
It would be fun to watch.
It would be. # fun to watch. Next guy on our list here, Max Mitchell. Tell the people.
Max Mitchell, Louisiana Lafayette, right tackle. Has been a starter for 4 years now. This is his 4th year. Started at left tackle in the past. This guy's for real. This guy's going to be, let's say he might end up top 100 player on PFF's draft board. Now, he's a little slight. But if you go back and watch his tape against Texas, exceptional. Only 1 pressure allowed in that game, 47 pass blocking snaps, and basically that whole second half, Texas knew they had to pass. They were down big, Louisiana in week 1. So this guy's his balance is terrific. And against Ohio, 94.7 overall grade. Didn't allow a single pressure. And yeah, it's Ohio, but you could still see how physical a guy is. And for only being 300 pounds, he is moving dudes off the ball. So big fan of what he brings to the table. Even texted Eric Galko, the Shrine Bowl guy. I'm like, you got the Shrine Bowl director. The Shrine Bowl guy was very informal of me. That was rude. But he's Shrine Bowl director. I said, hey, get this guy to the Shrine Bowl. He's going to be something. He's going to be a player. He said, oh, really? Okay. he was fringe for us. And so hopefully I just got Max Mitchell an invite. We shall see. But we'll have Eric out.
You're out here banging the table for Max Mitchell fucking 3 weeks in. You're
we'll
gonna
go get him.
You're
it's
giving
been that good. That's why.
And you can't just tell East West Shrine Bowl director, like, hey, go get this guy. Make sure he's in. You're not a fucking NFL coach.
We have a partnership with the Shrine Bowl.
I know you have a partnership, but you got to be like, hey, you should check this guy out. Not fucking go get this guy at the Senior Bowl. You're not some freaking monster.
All right, well, we'll ask Eric on tomorrow's show whether or not that's fair, because we're going to have him on tomorrow's show.
And he's also a guy that's his grades improved every year of his career. Yeah. You know, you look at 81.9 grade in 2019, playing over 800 snaps, 84.3 in 2020, and then now a 90.2 grade so far this year on 205 snaps. I think this past week was by far his most impressive game, and you see those people move. I think Billy Napier coaches toughness, though. I'll say that. The other thing I'm surprised by is I did not realize the Ragin' Cajuns logo, the apostrophe that makes them Ragin' and not Raging, is actually a chili pepper. So that is a nice piece. It's a nice touch.
Graphic design.
That's a nice graphic design piece. Next guy on our list here, Chad Muma.
We're going small school.
I was not ready. I knew when I saw this guy grading well, and I turned on his tape, and he was a little bit bigger than some of the linebackers that we've liked out of Wyoming of late, or even these small.
Big. Don't hate on Wyoming linebackers.
I think because arm length is so important at linebacker and these different. And I think you can fall in love with these linebackers and find out they have like 31-inch arms or 30-inch arms. You're like, wait a second, this is not going to fly. You need to have longer arms. You need to be more athletic. But yeah, Blake Cashman. Exactly. Chad Muma, 6'3", 242 so far this year, a 91.6 PFF grade for the Wyoming Cowboys. A guy that is rising up PFF's draft board.
22 stops in 3 games. He's on pace to get in the PFF record range with those kind of numbers. Has only missed 1 tackle on 36 attempts. Actually, for his career, he's only missed 10 tackles on 151 attempts, which is a pretty damn good rate for a linebacker. And yeah, the guys he's facing at Wyoming, not exceptional, but this guy is a legit prospect against Ball State, 91.5 overall grade, had a pick 6 in that game. I love his instincts, love the sort of nastiness he plays with. Is he is he Jordan Brooks athletically? Is he even Logan Wilson athletically? I'm not even sure, but I think he's good enough to be at least a 2-down linebacker in the NFL. So I haven't watched his tape because he limited season last year, only 347 snaps through 3 games this year. This guy is animal. Fun to watch for sure.
He's from Lone Tree, Colorado. Former 3-star recruit, had offers from Colorado State, Hawaii, Nevada, and Wyoming. Ended up committing to Wyoming. 6'3", 242. Chad Muma. That is the end of our risers list here. That's a prized list to get on because I know you're still trying to flesh out.
Gotta keep it tight.
Gotta keep it tight. But you're still trying to flesh out who you want to add to the end of year draft guide or the early January draft guide, and then obviously that gets fleshed out to the full 300. Are you close to 200 players right now that are kind of in your wheelhouse?
I got 200 on the list. We'll be dropping an update to the draft board on Friday, so make sure you go and check that out when it does drop.
Before we jump to the fallers here, week 2 of football is in the books, and now it's time to review the tape and get ready for week 3 with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. To kick off another action-packed week, DraftKings is giving new customers $150 instantly when they bet $1 on any football game. Listen up because you don't want to miss this. Head to DraftKings Sportsbook app now and place a bet of $1 on any week 3 game to receive $150 in free bets instantly if Sportsbook is not yet available in your state. DraftKings still has huge cash prizes up for grabs all season long with their daily fantasy contest. DraftKings is giving all new customers a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes with their first deposit. Download DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code PFF to receive $150 in free bets when you place a $1 bet on any football game. That's promo code PFF this week at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Must be 21 or older in New Jersey, Indiana, or Pennsylvania only. New customers only. Minimum $5 deposit and $1 wager required. 1 per customer. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or in Indiana 1-800-9-WITH-IT. DraftKings. I'm excited to go to Illinois because we get to bet again. I love leaving. The tailgate tours are fantastic because you can actually bet on the other states outside of freaking Ohio. So I bet a ton in Pennsylvania. I won a decent amount. I think I came out with a 1% win, edge, which wasn't great. But still,
didn't even ride with my UC call.
I didn't ride with your UC call. I did bet Maryland, our Terps live plus 340 when they were down against Illinois. I know against Bielema, who is family.
Also
but still. Fallers here. Indiana wideout. This one I kind of expected. Indiana wideout Ty Fryfogle goes down. Why? After facing off Ahmad Gardner and not playing all that well. He also has not had a strong start to the season.
Yeah, so they kind of, after it was tough sledding early on, they started moving him around away from Ahmad, kind of moved him to the slot a little bit in that game. But then he had 2 drops, only 1 catch on 9 targets for 13 yards. This could have been kind of a statement game. This is going to be the best cornerback you face all year, and a cornerback that, realistically should give him trouble like that. I said it in the pregame show, the college football show we do on Fridays. I said, Ahmad Gardner is about the exact same size as Ty Fryfogle. Fogle wins 6'2", 205, wins with that size, wins at the catch point a lot. That is also where Ahmad Gardner wins. So to see those two go head-to-head and Ahmad Gardner kind of get the best of them, not good for Fryfogle's draft.
You weren't super high on Fryfogle
I was not.
entering the season either. I mean, contested catch guy. I think I've said this in the office a handful of times, talking about some of these receivers that people like in college. It's good college receivers. I think getting these there are a lot of good contested catch types that will get hyped up entering draft classes that are good college receivers or even great college receivers. But if you're not a consistent separator, and I wouldn't call Fryfogle that, it's going to be difficult to kind of move up the draft board all that high.
Yeah, so if you have size and ball skills, you can put up massive numbers in college because college cornerbacks have dog shit ball skills. They can't find the ball. They're not like a go ball where a cornerback's head is not turned towards the ball trying to find it is basically just free yards in college football. For 90% of college corners, there's that 10% that actually, know how to play the catch point, can actually adjust, can actually turn and locate. But the vast majority just can't. It's a developed skill. It's why so many guys, it's why corner is difficult to evaluate from college to the pro as well. So that's kind of Ty Fryfogle. Very much a guy who capitalizes on that and not necessarily creates on his own.
Next guy on this followers list here, I know we said we weren't going to spend too much time on the followers, but Zion Nelson, the Miami, Florida offensive lineman, 6'5", 316 so far this year, a 57.4 PFF grade. Now, he's seen better competition than a lot of these other schools.
Yes.
Alabama week 1, even App State, was talented, and then Michigan State in week 3. He's seen some talented competition, but still.
But it's not like Michigan State's world beaters.
Yeah. When you compare it to Wyoming's schedule of like Ball State and all that stuff. But Zion Nelson still not playing, playing good competition, 57.4 grade, not what you wanted to see, especially after you kind of expected this progression. In 2020, a 70.4 overall grade and a 78.7 pass blocking grade. Looking to see improvement from that so far this year. Not the case.
Yeah, and it's also about expectations. He was top 5 in Mike Mayock's preseason draft or preseason board.
Mike Mayock?
Jeez, I always say Tom McShay. I always get those two confused.
Mike Mayock's board is out?
Probably is on Mayock still. Tom McShay's preseason draft board. When you have those kind of expectations, when you're thought to be that kind of prospect, and truthfully on the PFF draft board he wasn't. He was in the 40s preseason. Then they expect you to dominate. They expect you to go out against Michigan State and not allow a pressure. And now with 72 pass block snaps because they were down, and the second half was a little difficult, but 2 sacks, 4 total pressures against, Michigan State, probably well-coached team. These are not world beaters along the defensive line. I'll just say that. These are not top prospects that he's going up against. Alabama, Will Anderson, that's a difficult ask of him. But Drew Beasley, the guy who was kind of eating his lunch, good player, not quite on that level. So I do think that Zion Nelson, the top 5, top 10 hype, it's not going to happen.
It died on Mike Mayock's draft board.
Mike Mayock is rethinking that one.
Where does the expression eating his lunch come from? Is that bullying and getting your lunch stolen out of your locker?
Probably.
Okay,
Yeah.
Gotcha. Wasn't really sure. Owen Pappoe, Auburn linebacker. And this guy.
We were there in person scouting this.
Yeah, we were scouting Owen Pappoe in person, and he fell. He fell a little bit. Whereas number 0 for Auburn. The thing I'll say is this. Owen Pappoe has not graded super well over the course of his Auburn career. Even this 700 snaps played in 2020, a 58.9 PFF grade so far this year, just a 64 PFF grade with 3 missed tackles. He is, though, I'll say it, a fun to watch player. I think the reason I think a lot of you see some people hyping up Pappoe is because he does play the game with veracity and physicality that I think a lot of people gravitate towards at the linebacker position, but he's not playing it all that well right now.
And he's the kind of athlete that can play 3 downs.
6'1", 226, and can fly.
Yeah, probably going to run the 4.4s at that size. He is that kind of athlete, but speed only and athleticism only gets you so far. You have to finish plays. You have to make plays. And man, this game, one total stop on the day, 44 defensive snaps. They were lost over the middle of the field for the vast portion. And I didn't think Penn State was throwing anything all that creative at them to be that lost. It was just they were playing with tight ends, and he was really in between on his run/pass reads. Like, he was really caught in a bind a lot. You saw him just whiff on Jahan Dotson in space once, didn't even touch him. So not a good all-around showing against, Akron week 1, Alabama State week 2, whatever. He made plays there, great. Go up against a real team in Penn State, and for him just to be basically vanish is a little concerning as a prospect. And he always was going to be a guy who, you were hoping to take the next step. Like you said, he didn't grade out that well last year, was never been much of a playmaker, but he's been starting since his true freshman year at linebacker for Auburn, at least seeing significant snaps, and has that elite athleticism. So you're hoping to see it, but still TBD for Pappoe.
I think we talked a lot about this over the offseason, specifically about linebacker grading at PFF, and also like having success at linebacker. And you just kind of mentioned about like speed and athleticism only take you so far. To grade well in PFF system, like, you need to be consistently making plays, like at or behind the line of scrimmage, not missing tackles, and not giving up plays in coverage. And while speed and athleticism will often help you there, a lot of that is like instincts, technique, like how quickly you're reading and reacting to plays. And I think that's where I go back to, linebackers grading poorly early in their NFL careers. Patrick Queen, Jordan Brooks, even Devin White, Devin Bush, like those guys who were like good athletes, not grading super well. A lot of that, again, is just like speed and athleticism is not what's going to get you to like be a highly productive player at that position. It's one of the hardest positions to play in the NFL. It's one of the more skilled positions to play in the NFL. So I do think a lot of development needs to be made on like the cerebral component, but also like the technical component.
Yeah, I mean, Darren Lee, first rounder, awful. Like, never put it together. Like, ridiculous athlete, never ended up happening with him.
A new partner to Tailgate, Home Field Apparel. Home Field Apparel is a premium collegiate clothing brand out of Indianapolis, incredibly comfortable and officially licensed apparel with vintage college designs. Home Field is in the middle of big news Saturday, season 2, where they launch a new school collection every Saturday at 12 p.m. Eastern for 16 weeks straight. They have Georgia, North Carolina, Florida. I thought the West Virginia package was phenomenal. I'm a big West Virginia guy. And then also, they got USC coming this Saturday. I think the USC gear could be pretty sweet. I got San Diego State. I got the Vols. I got Florida. I think they sent me some other ones too. I got some Texas stuff. I'm a huge fan of Home Field Apparel, and you should be too. Use promo code PFF to get 15% off your first purchase at homefieldapparel.com. That is promo code PFF for 15% off. Get ready for college football tailgate season. Next part of this college football week 3 review. Let's get an update on this 2022 quarterback class.
Yes.
I think this one has been a little bit of a roller coaster.
Yes.
Which I think is a good way to explain this quarterback class, also evident why, like, I think you're going to see a lot of mixed opinions here. I mean, last year, I think there was only one notable analyst that didn't have Trevor Lawrence as their number 1 overall quarterback. I think even in previous classes, it's been more chalky for who the top guy is. Mm-hmm. This year, I'll read off some of the names. Spencer Rattler of Oklahoma, he's our number 1 guy and a lot of people's number 1 guy. He's also DraftKings projected first-round pick right now, or number 1 overall pick.
Maybe not in the next draft board. We'll see.
Oh, wow. You might be making some changes with Rattler. So then you also have Sam Howell of North Carolina, Malik Willis of Liberty, Matt Corral, Ole Miss, Carson Strong of Nevada, Keaton Slovis of USC, and then JT Daniels of Georgia. Any names that are just scratching that list that you could see yourself talking about come April, or is that kind of the extent?
I think in terms of guys who are legitimately – top half first round conversation. Okay. That's probably like they're
no Jaden Daniels.
I don't think Jaden Daniels. But I'm saying like guys who are at near top 10, top 15 sort of prospects. That's it. And some of those I would say are very uphill climb. That even get into that range would be a far fetched for me. But the interesting thing is some of that at the moment, if I then I'm 1 overall pick, I mean looking at this quarterback class. I don't know if I want to take one of these quarterbacks. And now it obviously depends on how dire your quarterback situation is. But I think gun to my head right now, if I had to take one, number 1 overall, the guy I would take my chance on is Malik Willis.
Really?
Liberty. Just because none of these guys are like complete quarterbacks at the moment. Like they're all so far away from looking like they can operate an NFL offense. So at that point, give me the most physically talented one. Give me the guy who can push the ceiling the furthest with his physical tools. And basically Malik Willis gives you the floor of elite rushing ability. Like that guy is a running back build, running back rushing ability. Like he has that. So just give me that floor, and then let me see what I can do with the talent, because Spencer Rattler is still not playing. He's not playing football, but like he's not playing the game that everyone else is playing at quarterback. I don't know the best way to describe it. I'm gonna have to think of a way to say it more eloquently, because I'm gonna be saying it all draft season. But the way he plays quarterback is just not how people play quarterback at the NFL level, and that's so concerning, because you would hope that could change, because Lincoln Riley's offense very much offers you a lot within structure, and he is still not taking advantage of it the way he should. And now he's super talented in his own right, but he's not nearly the runner, doesn't have the size that Malik Willis does. So I'm concerned about that. I think Howell has had the worst situation of these guys so far, but is not necessarily overcoming it in a meaningful manner, and still kind of relying on go ball RPO. Like that's still that offense. Obviously, wasn't necessarily going to change, but it's still difficult to project him to the NFL. Matt Corral's the one who's actually, of this bunch, who's really playing well. Now, again, Ole Miss hasn't played much in the way of top competition. We'll get to see him throughout the season, but I think he is actually looks like a guy who could be in that number 1 overall pick. Like if you're looking for the Zach Wilson, the guy who really lights it up his last year of college, Matt Corral is in that conversation right now, the Ole Miss QB.
I think he's tied for the lead in Heisman odds as well.
Yeah, and it should be. I mean, that Ole Miss offense is going to be tough to stop. And the one guy who I was really hoping for more, and who had a massive, massive sort of test this past week, Carson Strong, I just don't think he passed it against Kansas State, Nevada quarterback, going up against Kansas State. Finished with a 67.7 overall grade, or pass grade in that game. One really ugly pick. I just worry about him. He's just a one read, and getting off his first read is difficult for him. Like the speed and the accuracy suffers when he has to go past that. And now he's real quick and very accurate to getting to that first read, throwing with timing. But coming from an offense he does, at Nevada, competition he's facing, to not have that in his game, that's a developmental project then at that point.
I want to go back to Spencer Rattler. I know you just kind of ran through your guys that you feel all could be in contention for that top 10, top 5 type of selection. Spencer Rattler so far this year, just an 84.1 PFF grade, coming off a year where he had a 92.5, not seeing some levels of progression, not a single big-time throw. What's a big-time throw? Highly graded passes that are, we
down
grade
the football field.
Yeah, down the football field. Grade from -2 to +2. It's any single throw.
You know it when you see it.
You know it when you see it. Well, we hadn't seen it yet. 0 big-time throws for Spencer Rattler. 5 turnover-worthy plays. Those are the concerns there. And I do think that when you do look at some of the outer structure stuff, in rhythm, out of rhythm, outside the pocket, inside the pocket, so much of Spencer Rattler's work is being done outside the pocket. Also, under pressure, which is volatile. It looks sweet. And, I think there's a lot of specialness to being able to do what Spencer Rattler does under pressure with his arm and all that stuff. You need to win inside of structure more than you do need to outside of structure if you're going to be, sustainable success in the NFL. Do you see it correcting itself, at all? Or as they go into Big 12 competition, do you see it correcting itself to where everyone starts to get behind him as this consensus number 1 overall pick, or has he shown no signs of actually getting this thing back on the track?
I don't think it corrects itself. I just think that's kind of who he is at this point. It's going to take a different offense, basically a different voice in his ear, to really change that.
The other quarterback I want to ask you more about was Matt Corral. Matt Corral, I think, I think I kind of hit on it with Zach Wilson and Joe Burrow, these guys that play really well. How important is this bye week and then Alabama? I think this is a big game. Remember we talked about that Joe Burrow game against Bama? Mm-hmm. This Matt Corral game against Bama. He's got an extra week to prepare. They have a bye this week and then Alabama the following week. I think probably game day, that's going to be a massive game. I don't know what that spread will be. I think Ole Miss will probably be a top 15, top 12 team in college football at that point. That, I think, is his biggest test, obviously, of the season. But if he comes out of that looking special. I do think this, Heisman hype and also this top of the 2022 NFL draft hype will really start to boost.
Yeah, I agree. And that's like I think we just said about Strong. That was kind of Strong's last test. He can go light up teams in the Mountain West all he wants, and we're not really going to.
Not San Diego State.
But we're not really going to. It's not going to move the needle much. Matt Corral can light up Austin Peay all he wants. It's not going to move the needle much. We're going to come back to the tape this weekend against Alabama. Now, he looked solid against Alabama last year, but through SEC competition last year, it was the utter duds that you worry about. The 7 turnover where he plays against Arkansas, 5 turnover where they plays against LSU, and Arkansas came out in this 3 safety defense, 3 high safety that Seth Galina wrote about last year. That's just he couldn't figure it out. He didn't know what to do. He was just throwing into safeties left and right, and that's kind of what you worry about. Is if sees something a little bit different, sees a real deal defense, how can he overcome? Well, we'll get that chance to see next week. Not this week. Next.
Biggest test for Carson Strong, I just looked it up. Left November 13th, 10:30 kick, San Diego State in San Diego.
We'll be staying up late for that one.
And it's not going to be easy. I'll just say it right now. It's not going to be easy. Brady Hoke's going to be in his bag. I'll say it right now. All right, other 2 quarterbacks you didn't mention here, and maybe guys that you're already writing off of not being his first-round caliber players, Keaton Slovis of USC and JT Daniels of Georgia. Why? What? JT Daniels is grading well this year. He graded well last year down the stretch. Why is JT Daniels not, in that conversation for you?
Well, grading well this year, he played 1 game against South Carolina that he graded well in.
Stop.
Did you watch the Clemson game?
The Clemson game was horrendous.
Okay. We're good. We're good there. No, I mean, the Clemson game was almost comical in that they just were terrified of him throwing it away. His average time to throw in that game was 1.88 seconds. His average depth target was 3.5 yards on the football field. It was just when your head coach, as a play caller, offense coordinator, is specifically not letting you, that means they themselves know that hey, we can't let him take these chances down the football field. We can't let him throw away this game because they've seen him practice every day and they know how he operates. That's kind of an indictment in and of itself, is the head coach not letting you do things because they obviously know more about you than anyone else. So I'll just say that about him. And then Slovis, he's at very high risk of getting Keaton Slovis himself with how good Jackson Dart looked in his stead this past weekend. So Slovis is kind of Anthony Tresch's take about him being #1 overall. It's on life support. It is on life support, and it's unfortunate. Any of the Jaden Daniels truthers also on life support. Any other quarterbacks maybe even not even eligible for this draft class? Again, surprising. I think it hasn't been a fantastic quarterback year so far. It's been a roller coaster. Brandon Armstrong for Virginia is grading super well so far this year. Grayson McCall. What about Grayson McCall of Coastal Carolina? Oh, dude, McCall's just so skinny. I mean, I don't even think he got up to 210. He's a rocked up 210 now. He doesn't look. He's a rocked up 210 now. The guy who's interesting, who had a massive game this past weekend, is Jake Haener, Fresno State, beating UCLA. The 2 throws he made on that last drive were spectacular. Now, is he a first-round type prospect? No, I don't think so. I haven't gone back and watched his tape this year, but it's name to watch. Gotcha. Hashtag name to watch? No, it's not a freaking name to watch. Trevor Sycamore wrote a feature, a new PFF analyst here, wrote a feature on Jack Haener that comes out today on PFF.com. Jake? Yeah. Sorry. Before we get to Bust Watch, got to shout out our proud sponsors of the Tailgate Podcast, Western Southern. The Tailgate is sponsored by Western Southern Financial Group. While you focus on your roster moves, Western Southern helps advance your money moves. Buying your first home, planning to start a family, wondering how to make your money grow? Western Southern's playbook of life insurance, investment, and retirement solutions helps you rest assured on game day. Team up to identify your needs and adjust your goals with a game plan built just for you. Get started at westernsouthern.com/PFF. Are you planning to start a family, Mike? When are we going to start talking about it? Not anytime soon. All right. Definitely not going to talk to you about it either when I do. That's fair. That's fair enough. Next one, we have Bust Watch. Yes, Who is on Bust Watch right now? The Jaguars' entire defensive line. And now that's maybe a little unfair to Josh Allen, and it is unfair to Josh Allen. Don't put him in this. But you have 3 first-rounders on that defensive line that you drafted in the past 4 years. You got Taven Bryan at DT. You got Josh Allen. Bring up Taven Bryan. That's a deep cut. He's been on Bust Watch since 2019. But we haven't thrown him in the Bust Watch segment. And then Chaisson. Chaisson's the one I'm a little worried about because he looks like a deer right after they're born. They're still on the football field. Does that make any sense?
Yeah,
where
it
they're
does.
just like,
I can see it.
It's nothing comes naturally to him. Seems like he's still, whether that's the scheme, what he's being asked to do, he just doesn't feel like he's playing loose on the football field. You saw it week 1 when he legitimately was slipping left and right trying to bring down Tyrod Taylor, had like multiple free runs on him and didn't tackle him once, I don't think. And then this past week, I mean, his first pass rushing snap this past week, he didn't even get touched by Garrett Bowles on the left side and falls flat on his back. And then he had a very unfortunate stain right where it looked like he shit his pants the rest of the game, which was, I mean, insult to injury, like you read about. But his tackling grade for his career, 30.0 last year, 30.4 this year. Like I said, he just is not he's not comfortable. I don't know what it is. And now this year, 53.1 pass rushing grade, only 3 pressures. I am legitimately worried about him. Taven Bryan, bus watch. You can chalk that one up right now. He's in year 4, still doing nothing. Josh Allen, I'll just kind of attribute that he went up against 2 very good left tackles, probably 2 of the top 6 left tackles in the NFL. Larry Tunsil week 1, Garrett Bowles this past week. Still 6 pressures between those 2. He's not in this bus watch like the other guys are. It's the other 2, though. The fact that the Jags defensive line invested all that they did, and the results are lackluster.
I mean, there's a lot of reason to be concerned with the Jags, and starting with their defense, I think is an interesting choice because their offense also hasn't looked all that great either. But bust watch, I mean, Taven Bryan's comfortably in there. Chaisson entering. The other bust, Hall of Fame bust. I think we've mentioned it, but I kind of want to hit the point home. This past week had another stellar game. Bobby Wagner, first ballot, has to be first ballot Hall of Famer. He was fantastic this past week. He's graded super well his entire career at a position where I've already talked about how hard it is to grade well. Bobby Wagner, first ballot Hall of Famer. That's a guy I'm going to throw in the Hall of Fame bust segment of this.
18 tackles. Now, we don't love tackles as a stat, but 18 tackles is still a lot. And 7 stops. That means you are around the football. First ballot. You should be. I mean, it was him and Kuechly and David were the trio that we talked about that were the class of this generation of linebackers. And Wagner and David obviously still going strong.
Whiff watch.
Oh.
This one hurts. This is one of the first in-person interviews I've done at PFF.
You want to give the background again on this one again? So Jerry Tillery, defense tackle from Notre Dame.
Jerry Tillery, defensive tackle Notre Dame. He is now on our Whiff watch here. We went up to South Bend, interviewed him in South Bend, which was awesome. We talked to him, Miles Boykin, Drew Tranquil, me and video editor Tyler Sawchek. Shout out Savi T. And it was right after he had that surgery. His arm was hurt, and he's like, "You're not going to talk about this arm, right?" And I was like, "Yeah." It was one of the crazier interviews I've ever done because he was so hesitant, really, to really speak with me, and was very nervous that I was going to bring up like. So that was right when he was in that line of questioning too, where people thought he didn't love football, and he's like, "You can't bring up that stuff." I was like, "Dude, I'm just coming here. I'm largely just, and we like you a lot. We think you're a top 5 player or whatever." What did you have him as? Number 3 player in the draft?
10. No, he's 10.
10? Yeah. Top 10 player in the draft. We were like, "Dude, we're coming here because we love you. We think you're fantastic." And he was like, "Dude, blah blah blah." But Jerry Tillery, he's officially on Whiff watch.
Officially on Whiff watch, and it's because I don't know what it is. He has never figured out how to take on double teams in the run game. Now, as a pass rusher, I don't think he's a lost cause by any means. I mean, even this game, he had a sack, 3 pressures. So, like, he can still contribute a little there. But, my God, there's not a defense tackle in the NFL that gets taken off the line easier than Jerry Tillery. There's just not.
That's rough to hear.
It's so like, and it's been the same thing his entire college career. As a coach, you just have to, like, tell him to do something, like just have him penetrate or something else, because having him try to 2-gap or basically just, drop anchor against double teams doesn't work. He's got to put something else in his bag in the run game. 28.8 run defense grade so far this season. And now we obviously talked about the run game not as impactful as the passing game, but when you're that bad, it's still impactful. And teams know it and will just run right at you in short yardage situations. It is a liability. So Jerry Tillery on Whiff watch. Unfortunately, still hate the name of the segment, Whiff watch. Love the previous one. Whiff watch is like what you do at a bar on a Friday night, not
what the hell are you do? What are you doing at a bar on a Friday night whiff watching?
whiffing.
Whiffing? Oh, me. Yeah, that's actually not true. Untrue. But what? Come up with a better name than Mike.
All right, well, we can keep Whiff Watch. I like Whiff.
All right, Breakout Watch. Jaylon Johnson, cornerback for the Chicago Bears, coming off a monster game. I think he's the highest graded cornerback in the NFL, or one of the highest graded cornerbacks in the NFL. He was excellent out of the gate, dude. Another guy that was on this podcast, former Utah standout, guy that was super smart, super cerebral, and honestly, I think I comped him to Marcus Peters coming out. He looks really good and has been thriving for Chicago.
Thriving, to say the least. Picking a pass breakup in this game. 13 pass breakups as a rookie, led all rookies. I think he's clearly a player on the rise. Like, I haven't gone back and watched it. Yeah, he got burned deep towards the end of the game, kind of trying to sit on the sticks at one point. And that's a little bit of
a missed throw from Joe Burrow.
And that was a miss. Yeah, it got overthrown. It didn't end up costing them. That's kind of, I think, who he's going to be. I think he's going to be a little boomer bust. He's going to take chances. And like you said, Marcus Peters, that's kind of been him. But you are going to get ball production out of this guy from basically just what we've seen through a year and 2 games now. I feel confident that Jaylon Johnson is going to be a number 1 type of corner here very short.
Damn, high praise for Jaylon Johnson. First round lock. This is probably the most anticipated segment of these episodes, man. Everyone loves to hear who you're putting on the first round lock. And after that, we got interviews with Jestin Jacobs of Iowa and then running back Jerrion Ealy of Ole Miss. Tell me, so you have Kayvon Thibodeau, Derek Stingley Jr. of LSU, Evan Neal, Bama tackle, Aiden Hutchinson with an early addition to the first round lock, the Michigan edge defender, who I think right now leads all Power 5 defensive linemen in pass rush win rate, is also one of the highest graded players at his position, who is now the 5th locked in first round lock.
It's Kyle Hamilton.
Nice.
Notre Dame safety. Finally going to the well. Didn't know how long I could keep him off this list. Didn't want to look like a homer. But it's officially time because we're going to Notre Dame games back-to-back weeks, and he's coming off a monster against Purdue. Had the sick one-handed pick in the end zone, 2 pass breakups.
I feel like every single week we're like, oh, my God, what the hell?
Yeah, like, what was that? And that's basically who he is. And then the 4th down tackle in the backfield he had, coming from not box safety to make a tackle for a loss on a 4th down, was pretty insane. Kyle Hamilton, your first round lock. You could probably lock him in the top 15 picks too. That's the first half of the first round lock.
Let's go. Are you starting to get nervous at all about these locks here?
Yeah, after this, I don't know where I'm going with my next one. I have an idea of where I'm going with my next one. I'm not going to hint at it too much.
I mean, my take is, and don't comment on this if you don't want to hint, is eventually you're going to have to start talking a quarterback.
That's the one I don't want to go to.
Really?
I don't want to put a name. I don't want to put a quarterback name out there just because of this class, man. This class.
I know, but Rattler's not going to fall out of the first round. There's no way. There's no way Rattler falls out of the first round. He's too talented.
Yeah.
I mean, I would argue the same for Sam Howell. Like, that would be absurd, especially when you're, like, playing the betting odds. Like, Howell and Rattler are both, like, top.
Yeah, Howell, Rattler, Willis would be the 3 that would be one of those would be the first one I'd choose, but I'm going to wait a few weeks on those guys.
On quarterbacks, and you're going to go to the well on non-QBs for first rounders?
Yeah, I think there's a few more.
I'm excited. Tune in. Tailgate Podcast for the first round lock segment every single Wednesday. Next on our list here, Jestin Jacobs interview, and then also the interview with Jerrion Ealy. Let's get to those. Now joining the Tailgate Podcast is current Iowa linebacker Jestin Jacobs. Man, I've been looking forward to getting you on the show because I haven't been more impressed with any linebacker in the Power 5 than you this entire year. You have been phenomenal for the Iowa Hawkeyes defense, the number 5 Iowa Hawkeyes. Thanks for joining the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Where I'd like to start is, honestly, let's turn back the clocks a little bit. You're redshirt sophomore. You got to Iowa, highly regarded recruit, at 193 pounds, actually dropped to 190, and then have added a lot of weight since then. Talk to me about that progression and how hard that was to add that weight, or I guess how easy that was, just that whole journey to the weight you're playing at now.
Yeah, coming in, I knew I was obviously going to gain some weight. Not many linebackers were the way I came in at. So from the start, they just drilled it into me that I was going to have to eat. I was going to have to become a priority. I was going to have to constantly think about it, constantly fit it in my schedule. So then, just getting that down, the discipline, always have snacks on me, just always trying to make my goal weight each week because they didn't want me to gain it too fast.
Mm-hmm.
So just always like just trying to stay on pace. And yeah, the strength staff just helped me a lot, helped me stay on task.
Going from 190 to now 237 at 6'3", that's impressive. What was the go-to meal in the bulk up? Were you eating some people do the crazy smoothies. What were you doing for the go-to meal?
Well, I say a lot of protein shakes, a lot of core powers, a lot of little berry shakes that they make us here. And then from there, I was 190, not really eating a lot back home. So, it was kind of easy getting black card and whatnot, just constantly just keep eating. I say my go-to place is probably Chipotle. Probably eat Chipotle like 5 times a week.
I need to know what the Chipotle order is. Where you going? Double rice, double beans? What's the Chipotle order?
Yeah, so I usually get white rice, black beans. I get half chicken, half steak.
Smart.
It's a little hack to make sure.
I like it.
A little bit more meat in there. And I get the pico, and then hot sauce, sour cream, corn, cheese, and my voice cracking a little bit.
All good.
And then I always get the chips too. Can't get the bowl without the chips.
Yeah, that's honestly a fantastic order. Let's get back to football here. I want to talk more about the role you play in this defense. It's such a versatile role. They know you have that sideline to sideline speed. I know that Ferentz appreciates your length. You play so many different positions in this defense, move around a ton, especially pre-snap. How has that been for you, and how much have you, I guess, you've learned playing multiple roles and so many different roles in this defense?
Yeah, it's been fun taking on the challenge, switching around, just moving out around week to week. And as a linebacker unit, we really worked on that during fall camp and spring ball, just being versatile, just switching like 907 when we were out there, switching positions every play. So, I think Coach Wallace and the other linebackers doing a great job, like just coming together, making sure everybody learns each position. And then when you do that, it gets easier, like just to bounce around and move around.
What is your relationship with Coach Ferentz, and how much? I know you spoke to some other coaches and also the strength and conditioning coach, but how much has he specifically helped you throughout your young career there at Iowa?
He's helped me a lot. Just little conversations, just pulling me to the side. Like when I first started getting time, just telling me what he saw out there, what I could do better. And then when I did get better, he told me what he saw and just added on more, just different things that I can do. So he's just always giving me good advice, keep me humble, and just let me know what's the next step for me.
I think a lot of the country is not necessarily shocked, but surprised that Iowa is coming out. Number 5 team in the country, have done a fantastic job to start the season. Have you felt practices change or expectations shift, or going in, did you guys know you were going to going into this week with such high expectations and, like I said, a top 5 team in the country?
We really weren't focused on like being a high ranked team. We weren't really focused on like a lot of expectations. We really, as a unit, we just been working on just a lot of players have already said it, like in the media, just upholding our standard. And then once we reach a nice standard, we want to like just keep rising that. So I think like throughout our work through the summer, through fall camp, through the practices, us just growing tighter as a team, and then just holding each other accountable. And then when you do that, as you see, like the results start to pay off.
I love that. Hold yourself to a standard and maintain that standard. If you had to describe what Iowa football standard is, how would you describe it?
It's something that we talk about all the time. Just the 3 things: smart, tough, and physical. You want to go out there and that's the way you want to play. You want to be smart. You want to know what you're doing. You want to be tough. Obviously, when you look at Iowa football players, you think about them being tough and physical, winning at the point of attack, just making sure our opponent feels us. And I feel like we practice that during the week, and then it shows up during the weekend.
Let's look ahead to Colorado State. How much film have you already watched? And a name that pops off for me, Trey McBride, a tight end that has been absolutely phenomenal to start the season. I think he's in the early running for the Mackey Award list. How much tape of Colorado State have you already watched? And then have you honed in at all on that tight end they love to throw the ball to?
Yeah, we've watched quite a bit of film. We started on Sunday getting locked in. And yeah, obviously they have a huge talent at tight end. It's going to be a tough challenge this week. He's great catching the ball. He's great in blocking. So during the week, we just have to practice at 100%, just work on our physicality, because we know when we get in the game, we're going to need it. They like to be in big, tough packages. So come game time, we just got to be physically ready.
Last one for you, and then we'll jump off of this, Justin. Really appreciate the time. This is the number 6 defense in the Power 5 in EPA per play or efficiency. How does it get better? Where do you guys need to improve, you think, to get better and continue to kind of, like you said, hold that standard?
Just not become complacent, like not think we've arrived. Don't pay attention to the outside news. Don't pay attention to the rankings. Just know every week we go in the film room, we see the mistakes we make, and then we just gotta just improve off that and just get better every week. So just not becoming complacent and always just working to get better. And I feel like if we do that, then we'll just keep climbing.
Phenomenal stuff, Justin. Thanks again for coming on the show.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
Now joining the Tailgate Podcast is current Ole Miss running back, also dual sport athlete. People don't even know you're an outfielder for Ole Miss as well, also a baseball player, Jerrion Ealy. Jerrion, great to have you on the show.
Great to have. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, man. So you were a highly, highly regarded recruit coming out of high school, dual sport athlete, as I mentioned before, ended up making the decision to go to Ole Miss over a handful of blue blood offers. What kept you in Mississippi?
Honestly, I just knew we could build something great with the class. With my class coming in, I was already talking with a couple guys that were already committed here, and I was once committed here for a full year before I decommitted. So it was only right to stay home and, bring the first national championship to the state of Mississippi.
Hell yeah, man. That's awesome to hear. And I know Ole Miss is thankful for it, especially this season, already off to an absolute fiery start. Let's also talk a little bit about your love for baseball and football together. What you've been playing baseball since early high school, haven't missed a season in a long time, and you're recovering from shoulder surgery. But let me hear about what first got you into baseball and how important it is to you to continue to play baseball as you prioritize, obviously, your football career there at Ole Miss.
So first sport I probably ever played was baseball. The first thing I probably ever picked up was a baseball or a baseball bat. I've had two uncles. One played in the minor leagues. One actually made it all the way, and it was a scout for 20 plus years. And so I've always kind of been around the game of baseball. So I don't know. Just always had baseball in my blood and just it's always been there.
Mm-hmm. And so when did you start playing football, and when did that really take steam, gain steam for you?
I didn't start playing organized football until I was about 7.
Mm-hmm.
And so the rest is history from there.
Fair enough. Focusing in on Ole Miss here, talk to me more about your relationship with Lane Kiffin and how your relationship has progressed, especially with your usage in that offense, your relationship and the impact he's had on you.
He's had a big impact, honestly. I mean, he just teaches you so much about the game, just the small details of the game that people honestly fail to realize. He fills us in, and he's just a perfect play caller.
Mm-hmm.
It's like every time he calls a play, a score. So whatever he says, I'll listen to it.
Yeah, I think the other thing that a lot of people say about Lane Kiffin is just his ability to adjust, whether that's in a quarter, at halftime. Speak more to the kind of the experience you've had seeing him adjust on the fly, because you obviously work with him in the game plans prior to each game, and then you look at it in game, some things can be completely thrown out the window and change. How has that experience been for you?
All right, so I got a great example because it happened today. So today in practice, he just drew up something basically with his hand. He said, you do this, and then you do this. Next thing you know, he's in the end zone. So I don't really know what to say.
That's incredible. I think that doesn't surprise me in the slightest. I think a lot of people, covet him as one of the geniuses of the sport, one of the best offensive minds in the sport. Another, player or another person at Ole Miss that's, really thriving is Matt Corral, guy that is, jumping up the Heisman ranks, is playing really well to start this season. How has it been to, be at his side as he's progressed and honestly led you guys to these wins so far this year?
It's been great. I mean, I've been with him since I've been here. So I've seen him grow a lot over the years, and it shouldn't happen to anyone else. He's a perfect guy for it. He deserved it. He's worked his butt off, and it's just somebody that I go to war for any day.
It sounds like obviously a fantastic player off the field. On the field, what do you feel is this kind of separator for him among other quarterbacks in college football? What do you think specifically gives him that edge for Ole Miss?
His preparation, man. That man is up here like he's a coach. He put in coaching hours. So it's definitely his preparation. He prepares like he's a pro for sure.
I'd love to get an inside look on how you guys are preparing for your next game. You obviously have the bye week and then Bama upcoming, one of the biggest games of the year. First, let's talk about this week. What are the priorities in this bye week as you prepare for obviously next week? And then how do those shift and what kind of shifts in the schedule next week?
Honestly, man, we just getting a little bit of recovery and getting our legs back, and then probably tomorrow we'll start game planning for them. I mean, that's about it.
Yeah. Have you had any opportunities to turn on the film for Alabama yet, or are you already watching film, looking at the defense at all?
Oh, of course. I mean, as soon as I watched the game from this past weekend, yesterday I started watching film on them. I mean, hey, it's always great to get a head start on your opponent, especially those guys.
So when you're turning on that film, what are you specifically looking for? Do your eyes kind of gravitate towards the defensive line, linebackers? Are you looking more at personnel groupings? Where's your head at when you turn on the film?
I'm looking at the linebackers. I'm looking at the linebackers in the secondary, see how they move in space. What are their tails? What do they like to do? How do they tip off when they flip blitz? What do they do against inside zone? How they flow against outside zone? Just things of that nature.
Who on that team has surprised you or kind of caught your eye? They have two really, really talented linebackers, and in the secondary, obviously loaded as well.
Right. Christian. I played against him last year, and he was flying around. He does the same thing again. He's a very smart guy. Really good, really good, patient football player, So it's going to have to be a little cat and mouse game between us.
Absolutely. Something else, I forgot to bring this up when we were talking about Lane. I was reading an article where Lane compared you to a former player he worked with at Bama, Kenyon Drake. How do you feel about that player comparison? I know he said maybe you're a little bit shorter, or do you have a better player comparison than maybe Drake? Are there players that you watch in the NFL that you like?
I mean, coming out of high school, that's who I wanted to be. Kenyon Drake. I like Kenyon. I like Alvin. I like Aaron Jones. I like the guys that get out and catch the ball out of the backfield.
Gotcha. Last one for you, and then I'll let you go. Really appreciate the time. Ole Miss is off to such a hot start, and they have one of the biggest games of the years upcoming. But if you had to highlight an area where Ole Miss or even yourself could specifically improve, where can you guys get better for this season? What would that be?
Decreasing the penalties.
Gotcha. Yeah. Got efficient football, clean football is how Ole Miss moves forward. Jerrion, this has been fantastic. I really appreciate the time.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Have a good one.